The chairman, a figure of hope and controversy, Mahmoud Abbas, Abu Mazen, the chairman. These names are synonymous with Palestinian leadership and the quest for statehood. He's been a constant in Palestinian politics since the days of Yasser Arafat. His journey began in the shadows of a revolutionary leader, but he soon carved out his own path. Taking the helm of the Palestinian Authority in 2005, he promised hope. He vowed to bring about change and to lead his people towards a peaceful resolution. He promised a different path, a path that would diverge from the violence and turmoil that had plagued the region for decades. But after almost 2 decades, the question remains: has he delivered? Has he been able to fulfill the promises he made to his people? Abbas, a pragmatist, staked his claim on diplomacy. He believed that through dialogue and negotiation, a lasting peace could be achieved. He believed in negotiations, in finding common ground with Israel. This approach was a stark contrast to the more militant strategies of his predecessors. This earned him respect on the world stage. Leaders from around the globe saw him as a moderate voice, a beacon of hope in a troubled region. But back home, many saw it as weakness. They felt that his willingness to compromise was a betrayal of their cause. His critics point to a string of concessions, a softening stance. They argue that his diplomatic efforts have yielded little in return. They argue he's given up too much in the pursuit of peace. That his leadership has not brought the tangible results that were promised. His supporters, however, see a leader walking a tightrope. They understand the complexities and the immense pressures he faces. They see a man trying to secure a future for his people against impossible odds. A leader who, despite the challenges, remains committed to his vision of peace and statehood. Abbas's presidency has been defined by his unwavering belief in dialogue. He's consistently advocated for a two-state solution. He sat across the table from Israeli leaders time and time again, but these negotiations have yielded little tangible progress. Critics argue that Abbas's approach is flawed. They say his willingness to engage legitimizes Israeli occupation. They point to the continued expansion of Israeli settlements, the ever-present checkpoints, the daily struggles of Palestinians. They argue that these realities on the ground speak louder than any agreement signed in a sterile room. They demand a more assertive approach, one that challenges the status quo. While Abbas presents a moderate face to the world, whispers of authoritarianism follow him. His critics accuse him of silencing dissent, of consolidating power. They point to the prolonged postponement of elections, the suppression of opposition voices. Human rights groups have documented cases of arbitrary arrests, torture, and intimidation. Journalists critical of the Palestinian Authority have faced harassment and censorship. The space for free expression seems to be shrinking. Abbas's supporters argue that these measures are necessary to maintain stability in a volatile region. They claim that a strong hand is needed to counter the threat from Hamas and other extremist groups. One of the most damning accusations leveled against the Palestinian Authority is that it acts as a security subcontractor for Israel. Critics argue that the PA's security forces, trained and equipped by Israel and the West, primarily serve to protect Israeli interests. They point to the PA's crackdown on Hamas and other groups resisting the occupation. They highlight the coordination between Israeli and Palestinian security forces, often seen as collaboration against their own people. This cooperation, while framed as maintaining order, is seen by many as enforcing the occupation. It fuels the narrative of the PA as a puppet regime, further eroding public trust. Section 5. Financial shackles, dependence, and international pressure. The Palestinian Authority operates under constant financial strain. It's heavily reliant on foreign aid, much of which comes with strings attached. This dependence gives donors, particularly the United States and Saudi Arabia, significant leverage over Palestinian politics. Israel further controls the Palestinian Authority's purse strings by collecting taxes on its behalf. These funds are often withheld as a punitive measure, crippling the Palestinian economy. This financial vulnerability makes it difficult for the Palestinian Authority to act independently. It's forced to make concessions and prioritize the demands of its benefactors over the needs of its people. Section 6. A house divided, Hamas, Fatah, and the struggle for unity. The Palestinian political landscape remains deeply divided. The bitter rivalry between Fatah, the party of Abbas, and Hamas, which controls the Gaza Strip, has crippled Palestinian unity. Attempts at reconciliation have repeatedly failed. This division weakens the Palestinian position both domestically and internationally. It allows Israel to exploit the split, playing one faction against the other. Abbas has been criticized for his handling of the Hamas issue. Some argue that he's been too willing to negotiate with Israel while marginalizing Hamas. Others say he's not done enough to bridge the divide and present a united front. Section 7. Whispers of Succession, a new era on the horizon. At 87, Abbas's health is a constant source of speculation. The question of succession looms large, with no clear successor in sight. This uncertainty has fueled internal power struggles within Fatah. The international community, particularly the US and Saudi Arabia, has shown a keen interest in managing the transition. They've pressured Abbas to name a successor, hoping to ensure a smooth handover of power. This external pressure has raised concerns about foreign interference in Palestinian politics. It's fueled fears that a successor will be chosen based on their acceptability to external actors, rather than their commitment to the Palestinian cause. Section 8. Genocide in Gaza. Abbas's roar at the UN. The recent Gaza crisis of 2024 saw Abbas take a rare forceful stance against Israel. The conflict, marked by intense violence and significant civilian casualties, drew global attention and condemnation. Abbas, often seen as a moderate voice, surprised many with his vehement rhetoric. Speaking at the UN General Assembly, he accused Israel of genocide for its actions in Gaza. His speech was filled with emotional appeals and stark accusations, painting a grim picture of the humanitarian crisis unfolding in the region. He presented a 12-point proposal for post-war Gaza, demanding a ceasefire, Israeli withdrawal, humanitarian aid, and international protection. This comprehensive plan aimed to address both immediate needs and long-term solutions for the beleaguered territory. His accusations, while echoing the sentiments of many, drew criticism from Israel and its allies. They argued that his speech was inflammatory and counterproductive, potentially escalating tensions rather than fostering dialogue. They accused him of exploiting the crisis for political gain and undermining the possibility of peace. Israeli representatives highlighted their own security concerns and the actions of militant groups in Gaza, framing Abbas's speech as one-sided. However, for many Palestinians, his words were a long overdue articulation of their suffering. In the streets of Gaza and the West Bank, his speech was met with a mix of hope and skepticism, reflecting the complex emotions of a people caught in a protracted conflict. They saw a leader finally giving voice to their pain, even if it was on the world stage and not in their own streets. Abbas's speech at the UN may not have changed the immediate situation, but it resonated deeply with those who have long felt voiceless in the international arena. Section 9. Serving two masters? Abbas's legacy on the line. Mahmoud Abbas's legacy is a complex one. As the president of the Palestinian Authority, he has navigated a labyrinth of political challenges, both domestically and internationally. His tenure has been marked by a series of high-stakes negotiations and relentless efforts to secure peace. He'll be remembered as a pragmatist, a man who believed in dialogue and diplomacy. His commitment to nonviolence and his willingness to engage with international leaders have earned him both praise and criticism. But he'll also be remembered for the failures of the peace process, for the numerous rounds of talks that ended in stalemate, and for the promises that never materialized. For the continued suffering of the Palestinian people under his watch. The economic hardships, the lack of basic services, and the daily struggles of life under occupation have all persisted. His critics argue that his approach has only served to entrench the occupation. They claim that his policies have been too conciliatory, allowing Israel to expand its control over Palestinian territories. They point to the expansion of settlements which has continued unabated, further diminishing the prospects for a two-state solution. The ongoing human rights violations, including the use of excessive force by Israeli soldiers and the harsh conditions in which many Palestinians live. The lack of a viable Palestinian state. Despite years of negotiations, the dream of an independent and sovereign Palestine remains elusive. His supporters, however, maintain that he's done the best he could under impossible circumstances. They argue that the geopolitical landscape and internal divisions have severely limited his options. They argue that he's kept the dream of a Palestinian state alive, even as it seems further away than ever. His efforts to gain international recognition for Palestine have been a significant achievement, even as it seems further away than ever. The symbolic gestures, such as raising the Palestinian flag at the United Nations, have kept hope alive for many. Ultimately, the question remains, has Mahmoud Abbas been a leader for Palestine or a tool of Israel? This question continues to spark debate among Palestinians and observers alike. The answer, like the man himself, is far from simple. His legacy will be judged by history, and it will likely be as multifaceted and contentious as his time in office.